What's up guys, my name is Ace, and yesterday in Modern Warfare 3 we got what is quite possibly our last aftermarket part, at least within this life cycle of Modern Warfare 3. It is possible they could bring some out down the road as well, but I kinda doubt it at this point. In either case, this aftermarket part is for the Stormender Launcher, and this is the JAK Voltstorm. And starting it off with the description for this, it says, high voltage electricity is cycled through copper coils and discharged in a lethal bolt capable of hitting multiple targets. And just reading through that and leading up to this, I kind of thought this would be like the Tempest from Black Ops 3, where when you shoot a target with it, then for a short period of time, electricity will come out of them and chain to other people that are in their vicinity and end up killing them. However, it turns out that's not actually the case, and instead, this is more so just like a shotgun that you have to charge up. And while it can kill multiple enemies, it's not like a chaining effect or anything. It's just that if multiple enemies are in your lethal zone when you fire that, they will end up dying. And even just playing around with this, it is a little bit confusing because when you fire a shot with this, it looks like it's firing one single projectile right toward the center of your screen. And that doesn't really line up with the actual performance of this. Like I said, it behaves more like a shotgun, and essentially anybody that's within that hipfire radius and within your lethal range will be killed when the shot goes off. But leading up to that shot, we do have a charge time, and based on my testing, this does appear to be right around half a second, or 500 milliseconds. Keeping in mind that could be a little bit off, there isn't a really super obvious indicator that lets you know the exact frame that it's actually charged up and ready to go, but it's about half a second at least. However, it is worth noting, once you charge it up, you can walk around with it charged, and therefore all you have to do is release the trigger at that point, and it will fire instantly. Then when it comes to our rate of fire, the value stated in-game is 74.5 rounds per minute, which is a fairly slow rate of fire. However, it turns out in practice, it's actually much slower than that even, because I don't think it factors in the full charge time. And realistically, the fastest I was able to get was about 45 rounds per minute. Keeping in mind, I didn't necessarily have the absolute perfect timing on everything, because again, we don't have a perfect indicator on when exactly you can release that. It's just something you have to develop a feel for over time. But just know that rate of fire is very noticeably slower than what it states here because of that charge time. Then let's talk about our damage range a little bit, because this is something very important with this. It turns out we can only deal damage with this out to 7.6 meters. Anything beyond that, you can't even get a hit. Ignore the firing range dummies. Yes, you can get hit markers on those at longer ranges, but it's actually not dealing any damage to them as far as I'm aware, and that's not representative of what you experience in the actual game, because you can't even get a hit marker beyond 7.6 meters. However, based on my testing and my experience with this so far, if you are within 7.6 meters, as long as that enemy is within your hipfire cone, they will die every single time. I have yet to see a hit marker take place with this, where I get a hit but not a kill. And that hipfire cone is quite large as well. It does take up a good portion of the center of your screen, so this is quite lethal. If you can just close that distance, get that enemy at least somewhat centered on your screen, not even perfectly centered, then this thing is super deadly, as long as you're already charged up and ready to go. The charge time is what really keeps it in check, because if you're not charged up, half a second is enough time for essentially every gun in this game to kill you before you can get that shot off. Now on top of this, when it comes to multiple enemies, it's the same story. You can have a bunch of enemies. If they're all within that cone and within 7.6 meters, you will kill every single one of them with one single shot. And that's where this becomes insanely powerful in certain specific situations, especially in choke points or on the small map mosh pit where you tend to run into a lot of enemies in a small area. This can wipe out multiple enemies with a single shot very, very consistently. As for our movement speeds, the most important movement speed for this kit is going to be our standard walking speed, because you typically want to be getting into situations already charged up, so you just have to release that trigger, and you can't be sprinting while it's charged. You can only be walking. And I did want to take a look at this, comparing our base walking speed at 4.9 meters per second with our charged walking speed to see if you move any slower. And it turns out we do move 10% slower when we are charging up the shot compared to just walking normally. So that is a factor to consider. However, it's also worth considering if you put the lightweight boots on, you will also improve this charged walking speed by about 5%, which every little bit helps when it comes to that, and therefore that's a solid choice I would say when using this, is make sure you're using those lightweight boots to help you close that distance a little bit better if you've already got that charged shot. Now obviously sprint speed is also important to a degree when it comes to just getting from point A to point B, but generally you don't want to be sprinting into fights with this, because once you do find that fight, not only do you have your sprint out time before you can even start charging your gun up, then on top of that you have your charge time, and at that point it's just too late for you. So that's why walking speed is far more important, and our sprint speed isn't that amazing either way. It's only 5.4 meters per second. And then another thing to point out here is even though the stats show our aim down sight speed and aim walking speed, you can't actually aim down sight with this at all. You are stuck in Hipfire, and with that Hipfire spread, like I said, it's a very wide spread, and something interesting with this is it never changes. It doesn't matter if you're prone, sprinting, sliding, doesn't matter at all, that Hipfire spread remains consistent 100% of the time. And this leaves us with one last important factor to consider with this, and that is, just like with the base Stormender, we have infinite ammo with this, or infinite charges. You never have to worry about managing your ammo. You don't need to run scavenger or munitions box or anything. You have an infinite number of shots with this. It's just that each of those shots does need to charge up. And there we go. That wraps it up for the breakdown of how exactly this brand new aftermarket part, the JAK Voltstorm, works on the Stormender. Now, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts and experiences with this, because one thing that I've noticed that I've found to be a little bit frustrating while using this is oftentimes that audio cue of this kit charging up, it doesn't always play in a gameplay environment when there's lots of other sounds going on. It seems like that audio is not prioritized, and that can really throw you off because all of your timing with releasing that shot is generally based on the audio cues that you're getting. And without those audio cues, you're just left guessing. And oftentimes I'll find that I think I'm charging up the gun, or I think I've already got it charged, and there's a lot going on my screen, so visually I don't really have time to be checking the muzzle of my gun to see if it is charging up or if it is charged. And then when I release the shots, it turns out I wasn't actually charged up at all. And that is one part that I find to be frustrating about using this from time to time. It just seems like there is that bit of an audio bug, and that audio really needs to be consistent so you can tell what's going on at any given time. Outside of that though, I would say it's an interesting gun to use, a fun gun to use. However, I've also got some mixed feelings when it comes to this. Luckily, I haven't run into anybody using this against me yet, but just being on the giving end of this, I've definitely felt like a lot of the kills I'm getting are very cheesy kills, because the most effective way to use it is to have it pre-charged before a gunfight, but then your movement speed is really limited, so that often means you kind of have to wait for the enemy to come to you, while ensuring that you're controlling your lanes and your angles and your distances. And as a result, I often found myself just standing in a doorway, pre-aiming that doorway to ensure that any enemy that comes around that corner, they're going to be within 7.6 meters. And then the moment I see any movement, all I have to do is release the trigger and that guy is dead instantly. And it's not like I even have to aim or anything. I just have to be roughly centered on that doorway. And on an individual gunfight basis, it can feel very cheesy to be getting kills with this. And especially on the small map mosh pit where it's hard to keep your distance from enemies and you do have to push through certain choke points in order to get around the map, I feel this would be a very unfun gun to be playing against. In saying that though, looking at more of the big picture of the match and not just the individual gunfight to gunfight, performing well on a consistent basis and like leading a team, for instance, while using this is not so easy. There's definitely a lot of skill involved in how you're navigating the map, how you're controlling your angles and your distances, and making sure that you're sprinting at the appropriate time versus charging up at the appropriate time. That all does take a certain level of skill if you want to be racking up a bunch of kills in a match and playing very consistently well. So that's where things get sort of mixed when it comes to my opinion on this. It's cheesy and probably really frustrating to play against at times, but at the same time, not super easy to perform consistently well with. At the end of the day though, I'm glad that it's something that performs unlike anything else we've got in the game currently. I love aftermarket parts like that because it feels like a truly unique experience, and it allows you to view and play the game in a totally different way. But of course, these are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this in those comments down below. Are you guys generally enjoying the JAK Voltstorm? Do you guys think it's overpowered, underpowered, or just cheesy? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.